Dr. Diane Trautman, and on behalf of the Harris County Department of Education Board of Trustees, CASE, and the Enrich After School community, I want to welcome you to our State of After School Address. HCDE works to equalize access for youth through a variety of programs and service divisions, including Head Start, adult education, therapy services, special schools, as well as many others. CASE, today's conference host, is one such division. They have worked diligently to prepare for today's conference, and I am sure you will all enjoy the variety of sessions that will be offered. As a board member, I stay very involved in the community and am very appreciative of the many ways CASE facilitates community connections. Whether it be through today's conference, convening the After School Community Leaders Board, or hosting an Enrich After School Community Research Initiative event. It is a great feeling when we can all come together to support the needs of children during a very critical out-of-school time frame. This spring, many of you joined CASE in the first leg of the Enrich After School program in the Call to Action Tour. The tour kicked off with visits to Houston City Council to collaboratively share the research of Enrich and to educate our elected officials on the need of our work. While I don't want to steal the glory from City Council member and Enrich Chair CO Brad Bradford, I feel the best way to kick off this State of After School Address is to tell you that Houston City Council passed Councilmember Bradford's budget amendment to support out-of-school activities in the amount of just over $500,000. We will be hearing more about the effort from Councilmember Bradford himself just after lunch. So with no further ado, welcome to today's State of After School Address. Thank you.
At each of your seats, you should have received a handout that provides background information and the key accomplishment of Enrich After School. Enrich has been a 3-year endeavor to increase the knowledge and awareness of many systems that are needed to support the success of children from pre-K to graduation. One of those systems is out-of-school time. This is a third space between home and school for a child to excel, explore, and expand their horizon before school, after school, on weekends, and during summer. Our city's future will require a more skilled and educated workforce in order to keep it standing as the world leader in energy. In the 25 school districts in and around Harris County, 61.7% of the over 881,000 students served are economically disadvantaged. That represents a significant number of the students who should have the same opportunities to benefit from quality after-school programming that our other families can afford. Music class, academic clubs, sport activities, and tutorials all provide learning opportunities that prepare youth for their future. Research has identified immediate outcomes such as increased school engagement, improved homework completion, increase in safety for students, decrease in anxiety for working parents. The long-term impact of the students participating in more than 2 years of out-of-school time programming can result in increased educational aspiration, increased health and wellness, and increased civic engagement. Other long-term impact for the communities as a whole are reduced rates of crime, increased graduation rates, and an increase in youth continuing their education beyond high school, all of which can have a valuable return on investment for our future. To share the success achieved through a local after-school programming, I now welcome Dr. Lisa Thompson Caruthers, Director of HCDE After School Division, Case for Kids to the stage for the State of After School Address. Dr. Lisa Thompson Caruthers has been with Case since 2000. She holds a doctorate degree in social work at the University of Houston, where she studied after-school programs and their impact on youth engagement. Dr. Lisa Thompson Caruthers also serves on the board of directors for the Texas Partnerships for Out-of-School Time. Texas PUF is the agency that seeks to drive change in support of quality after school at the state level.
Welcome to the second annual State of After School Address. In an effort to formalize our field, it is important for us to do a State of After School Address. Just like the President, just like HISD Superintendent, we have got to own this field. We've got to be proud of what we do, because if we don't do the work between the school day and home, there are other people waiting to do that. People that don't have the best intentions. So we have to take pride in what we do and celebrate on a day like today. So the first thing I'm going to do to open up is I'm going to give you guys a quiz. Now, I know we test our kids, but now it's time to test you. So we're going to talk about the field, and I'm going to ask you guys, this is a new time, this will be my first time live trying this, you get to text. Okay, so see, you text your response to the question, our sample question, what is your favorite breakfast food? Text one of the keywords there to 22333. We see one response already. Is this how we do it? Okay, we got a couple responses. All right, we're working it out. Got some live testing here. Good data, good data. I'm always gathering data everywhere I go. Okay, so good. Bacon and tacos are like, we got a head-to-head situation here. Okay, four waffles. Oh, they're catching up. All right, so that was our sample. So our field of after school, which we have normally embraced as after school, it's really wrestling with its identity, because it's really so much more than after school. So the field has embraced the OST. So I want to ask you, I looked up Wikipedia to see out of school time, what they said about it. So I want you guys to vote to see what you think, according to Wikipedia, which of the following is not listed as what OST stands for. So we are correct. Out of school time is not there. Outer Space Treaty is. I'm not real sure what Outer Space Treaty is, but it is in Wikipedia. We've got to get big enough so that we can be on that Wikipedia as well. So sorry. All right, our next question. Which of the following is not credited for contributing to summer learning loss? Limited access to reading materials, limited travel to museums and trips, and teens sleeping in late. Exactly, teens sleeping in late. Summer is such a critical part of the work we do. We have before school, we have after school, we have weekends, and we also have summer. And we know now that over 50% of summer learning loss by the National Institute of Summer Learning is being credited to the achievement gap. Of the 50% of the achievement gap is being credited to summer learning loss between economic levels. And so it's so important to get our books and our activities and get our kids engaged in the summer. So yes, teens sleeping in late is the answer. So my last one is an open-ended question. So you can text, what do you think ELO might stand for? So you can text it in and you can put anything that you think this might stand for. That also came up, of course, on Wikipedia. So what ELO stands for is Expanded Learning Opportunities. According to the expandedlearning.org, ELO is marked by community and school provision of academic and enrichment-based activities that can keep the kid engaged, learning through hands-on activities. So we really have to make sure that the whole community is engaged, that is coming in this gap between school and home and working with our kids. Content-based experts, such as our vendors in our next room, are so critical to the engagement and excitement about staying late and working with kids after school. So the ELO is embracing that broader community. So with all these changes, we thought we might change our name. Cooperative for After School Enrichment. So what do you think which one do you think our new logo is? Yes. Case for Kids. Because we make the case for kids. That's what we do every day. That's what we're doing this morning. So we are now the Center for After School Summer and Expanded Learning. So broadening our scope and making sure it is clear as we communicate to the community all the reach that we have. So phase 2, we did two major research projects. One of them is finished, and that was our return on investment study. And the second one is underway, and we'll hear more about that today. But people vie for our kids' attention every day, as we were talking about. Youth exposure to alcohol commercials on TV have increased from 2001 to 2009 at about, what percent? 70%. These guys are going after our kids in the critical out of school time hours. Last year, Councilmember Brad Bradford talked to us about the increasing, alarming rates of gang involvement. So we see that at 29% in our Houston area. We have to be as purposeful as the gangs, as the marketers, and working with the kids. And that's what you guys do here today. So I want to thank you all for that. The work in your out-of-school time shows great return on your investments. In Texas, after-school programs participants are 45% more likely to be promoted to the next grade. And the research has also found that they are 22% less likely to drop out. So the research is talking to us. The greater Houston area saves over $124 million when students are promoted to the next grade. 85.2% increase in poverty households with less than a high school education. So if you do not graduate, you've got an 85.2% increase in chance of being in poverty. This is all work that was found out by our student team from Texas A&M, Bush's School of Government and Public Service as part of phase 2 of Enriched. For their capstone project, they took a look at our local programs and provided a Enriched Capstone Report 2013. They found that investments in out-school time programs led to cost savings and a community by improving retention rates, improving school day attendance, and reductions in the criminal justice system. Now, they had a lot of complicated formulas. There was log-odds, which I learned about when I was in school, have not applied it since then. So I tried to take their complicated formulas and sort of bring it down to language I could feel comfortable with. So they collected data on 41,367 students served by our community. Now they had percents, those percents I just showed you. But in real language, if 1 in 100, now this is a conservative estimate, this is less than what they found in the research. If 1 in 100 of those 40,000 students did not fail and would not have to repeat a grade, we will have saved the Harris County school system over $4 million. If 1 in 1,000 didn't drop out, again, this is probably about 4 times less than what they were predicting. But 1 in 1,000 is an even number, so I went there. 1 in 1,000 did not drop out due to after-school engagement, we would see $473,000 in income to those individuals that made it to graduation. If 1 in 10,000 avoided probation costs, it'd be 32,000, and that's just probation, much less the other expenses of the juvenile justice system, which are incredibly high. $300 a day to keep a kid in lockup. $300 a day. Our programs in Houston average anywhere from $800 to $1,200 for a year. What a great prevention, and what a better cost-effective thing. So the student team was led by Professor Melissa Gibson. Is she here today? They make it? Okay, so they were coming in. They may be late because they come all the way from A&M. But she's coming in with a new crew. They have a new project, and they're going to look at the impact of our programs on student behavior. So that is their next research they'll be taking on this year. So while the research, the 40,000 number that they looked at seems big, it is really small compared to the number of kids that we serve in Houston. There's 881,000 kids in the 25 school districts that are in or touch the Harris County boundaries. 61.7% of these are in economic need. Every minute matters when we work with these kids. We've got to get the investments. Every minute matters for us when we work, because we are putting our time and energy into these projects to work with these kids. You know, I sit at my desk and I forget about the numbers. The grant deadlines, reporting, it's just so hard to forget about the actual numbers, the actual impact that you have on the kids. I'm not directly touching them like a lot of you guys are. So my husband and I just moved. That's my husband right there. Hi. It's an incredibly stressful event, right? And we have 2 little kids. And on the day of the move, my husband, my mother-in-law, my son, my daughter all got very sick. So I'm there alone with the movers. And we're talking, there's a break, and we're just there working hard. We sit down and take a little moment to breathe. And he said, well, why did you move? We're talking about moves. Why did you move to Houston in the first place? And I said, well, I'm from Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana. I thought I wanted to be in a bigger city. I could reach more kids, more chance for them. Now, that's a standard reply I say all the time. Don't even think about it. Then he had a follow-up question. He goes, well, did you do it? And it made me stop and think. I never think about it. I'm like, oh my God. CASE programs this year will serve 11,000 kids. I did it beyond my wildest imagination. And that is times, now, you guys that work in CASE programs, you're in this number. But that's times the ones of you that aren't. We have people from out of state, vendors that are working with people in California, working with other states, working all across the United States. Our reach is huge, but we've got to keep the work. So on a day like today, when I look around and I'll add up all the numbers from the kids we serve, I know that what we're doing right with Enrich is really powerful. And I also have to thank one more person in the room, Leslie R., grant officer at the Houston Endowment, who funded the research for Enrich Phase 2. Thank you very much. So, our first meeting with the Houston Endowment, they said, you got to make sure, this wasn't Leslie, it was one of her colleagues, said, research, it just sits on the shelf. Can't find things that are just going to sit in a book on a shelf. So that's what we're doing here today. We're making sure that we are actually getting it out into the community and sharing it. That's why it's so important to continue the Enrich Call to Action Tour. You go out and see foundations, go out and see other elected officials beyond City Council, you go see superintendents, and keep the work and keep the research inside our community. So with that, our next steps are today's launch of a podcast. So those interviews we talked about earlier that some of the AmeriCorps members will be getting, and they'll be collecting them through the day, will be leader interviews that'll be highlighted on a podcast called Making After School Cool, a bridge between research and practice, we're using trivia, that's my trivia game here. We're using trivia to tell the story of the research. So one of my next contestants, as soon as they finish this research, is going to be our next guest. So we're very excited to hear today about our second research project, which is being conducted by Dr. Horn from University of Houston. I gotta get my little bio here. Dr. Catherine Horn and Dr. Toya Constant. Dr. Horn is an associate professor of educational psychology, and Dr. Constant is a researcher for the College of Education, both from the University of Houston. Dr. Horn was selected to do best practices research based on her interest in educational reform and policies and how they impact students. So we thought she was a great fit to look at our programs, the variety of models and service delivery units, and to go and look for best practices that we could highlight, share, and talk about, make connections to outcomes. So I'm proud to welcome them to the stage to tell you about Enrich Phase 2 research.
So it always makes me nervous when I hear statements like research. Why would we do research? I'm reminded of this is gonna date me. So one of my favorite movies growing up was Dirty Dancing. The Patrick Swayze Dirty Dancing, not the more recent one. And there's a scene at the end, sorry, had to clarify. There's a scene at the end where Baby's sitting in the corner and Patrick Swayze comes in and says, "Nobody puts Baby in a corner," and grabs her and then they do the big scene. That's how I feel about HCDE's use of research. Nobody puts research in a corner when you're talking about Harris County Department of Education. And on behalf of the University of Houston and on behalf of Toya and myself, I want to simply say how excited and grateful we are to be part of what I think is an incredibly important component of this collective work that we all do on behalf of kids. We take very seriously our part of the mission to serve our greater Harris County community for the benefit of all of us. And the way that we do that, at least in part, is through the scholarly work, the research work that we do, that we see being part of the conversations that you all are having, informing those discussions and allowing us to partner with you in the important and good work that's happening across this city. To that end, we are undertaking, as Lisa described, a best practices study that's really focused around 3 areas. We are in sites, we've been in sites, and we will be in sites continuing this fall to focus on identification and description of best practice in terms of opportunity to learn and in terms of delivery strategies. We're focusing on those 2 related and yet discrete components because for us, one of the important outcomes of this is to be able to talk comprehensively about this 3rd question that's of interest to us, and that is around scalability. One of the things that makes research useful is being able to take something that is discrete and connect it to something that is shared. And so for us, what that means is being able to come back with you in the next several months and share what we've seen as best practices and talk about, from a grounded perspective, how that work is translatable, is scalable to a broader constituency, so that again, we all learn from each other, we all benefit from each other, and ultimately our kids benefit from that collective focus on excellence. I'm going to ask Toya to come up and talk very briefly about the preliminary work that we have found to date.
Please give her another round of applause. In our world, she's an absolute rock star. I just thank her so much for allowing me to be a part of this study. And again, my name is Toya Constant, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at U of H, and currently working with Dr. Horn on this project. And I'm going to speak very briefly to our preliminary findings. And, oh, there they are up there. And Our findings currently are crouched in cases quality elements. So what they see as elements that lead to great programs, out-of-school programs. So very quickly, I'm just going to touch upon what we observed over the summer in regards to our findings. So for the first note, safe and inclusive environment, what we observed from our summer sites is that the adult to student ratios allow for safety, activity, implementation, and individualized attention for all youth. The physical workspace was conducive to the group size and activity type. So this was across the board for all the sites observed during the summer. Going on to the next point, diverse learning opportunities. We observed that instructional staff engage students and/or reach those with different learning styles. Staff used diverse instructional strategies, including direct instruction, coaching, modeling, and demonstrating. So there was a wide array of instructional strategies used to reach these diverse student populations found in Harris County. Next, effective administrative strategies. The evidence we saw of this over the summer is that participants in these summer programs had adequate supply of materials and tools needed to make progress on tasks or activities. So this kind of speaks to the monetary financial management of these programs, and from what we could observe that these programs were very robust. They had the materials needed to carry out their projects and special assignments they were doing during the summer programs. Next is the collaborative relationships, and we observed that staff structured activities so that youth had opportunity to have direct engagement with community partners, including local city government officials, nonprofit agencies, and specialized instructors. And again, this was a concept that was seen across the board in all programs across the summer. And lastly, program awareness. We did find evidence that sites did make effective use of trying to target their market audience and by getting information about their programs out to their community and to the broader city. So again, this was something that was evident across all sites in the Harris County Department, Harris County out-of-school programs that we observed. So again, these are just some of our preliminary findings, and we look forward to sharing the rest of our report in the upcoming months. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Horns and Dr. Constant. Now I would like to welcome to the stage our special guest, WBC Americas and USBA Worldwide Middleweight Champion, Jermel Charlo. Native to Lafayette, Louisiana, Jermel has had a very successful amateur career with an estimated 63 amateur bouts. Jermel turned pro in 2007 at the age of 17. He is looking forward to blazing his own trail with the support of his brother. Jermel has their fans and is fighting more frequently in order to catalyze his place at the national level.
Hey everyone, just want to give y'all a brief rundown of my career, my life. So growing up in Lafayette, Louisiana, which that's his native. It's tough, like you gotta grow up and fight, and it wasn't all about boxing, but I played football, t-ball, baseball, and every other sport. And I'm an identical twin brother. I have an identical twin brother, and just watching my twin brother and watching my father box, at a young age, I had no other choice but to be in competition. Just picked right up on it. Started boxing at the age of 8, and with that being said, I just continued the career, continued to build. And, the competition in the home, just, arguing with having a twin brother, you share t-shirts, you share everything, underwear, food, everything. You never know what tomorrow might hold, arguing or fighting with your brother. So, we wound up moving to Houston, back and forth. Actually, Richmond, we moved back and forth every month. We was back and forth because Grandma lived here, and there was life here in Houston other than Lafayette. And so we picked up a gym in the Houston area, Savannah Boxing Club, and you know, me and my brother started from there, and just continue to push, and I think at the age of 15 years old, we, you know, we made it to a national level of competition because the competition at home was so high. Whenever I would compete against other individuals throughout the nation, it was just so much easier, you know. And so fighting was all I knew, you know. And growing up, you know, I turned pro at 17, you know. Let's get started with that. I turned pro at 17. I was still a baby. I'm still a baby now. I'm 24 years old. But I was really a baby fighting guys that was 30, 40, you know, 40 years old, you know, competing with these guys. And, you know, I always told my promoters and managers and everyone that, you know, put me in there with the toughest competition so I can excel. And so now at the age of 24, I'm a two-time world champion. You know, on the side of my brother, you know, he's high in the rankings. And so hopefully, you know, just to be the first, y'all be the first to know this, but I'm looking to fight at the Minute Maid Park in Houston. One of the biggest fights that HBO will hold for the remainder of the year, which will be great. But on to the case, because that's what we're here for. This is the most important. Maybe about 11, it took me about 11 years to master my craft and what I do as far as boxing and being at the top of the food chain. And about 4 years ago, I started just training guys on the side, you know, like helping younger guys get the, you know, minds right and want to box and want to just be fit and be in shape with the ambition and the drive, determination that me and my brother always had growing up. I want to, you know, falling in love with just training and got connected with my own boxing academy here in Houston. And so just getting that started and going further with, you know, like falling in love, getting deeper with training and training myself. I, you know, started training kids, you know, and, you know, getting connected with these kids after they come in from school, they're tired, their moms, like, just drop them off, and I felt like I had a lot on my plate at the time. So it became a priority for me to sit back and teach, you know, kids the art of boxing, because that's all I knew. And so, you know, moving in my career as a boxer, you know, I learned some things. You know, I learned how it took all I went to school to do. All I did my whole career was box, and after school go straight to the gym. So my after school program was a little bit different than a lot of other times. You know, people was getting picked up for daycare. Me and my brother, we have to run like 3 miles to go to the gym. So, you know, it's very important to me what, you know, with the kids of our generation or kids coming up in our generation do after school, because just like me and my brother, you know, I've been doing this all my life, and I'm still doing it now, and it's a career for me. And, you know, it's what I call like my bread and butter, you know, my money. And so it's, you know, I focus right now on, you know, kids, and I focus on teenagers, because in high school, everybody wants to have an ego. You know, everyone wants to fight. Everyone wants to, you know, back and forth, don't know if they want to go to college. They don't know if they want to, they don't know what they basically want to do. And, you know, me just being a professional boxer, I'm no big major leader like you guys, so I'm really honored to be in front of you guys. So it just, you know, like that's what's important. You know, focusing on the kids. You know, education after school, but finding also what they love. You gotta, you know, dig deeper into what the hobbies of a teenager, the hobbies of an 8-year-old. You know, if you see them throwing punches, or if you see them picking up a football, stick with it, because, you know, just like myself, it can go a long way. Thank you guys.
Houston, Texas.
Oh, it's good to be back home. If I seem a little bit off right now, like I don't have any energy, it's probably because I came in at 2:45 this morning from Denton, Texas. But once again, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is ADRIAN. I'm from Houston, Texas. I go to the University of North Texas in Denton. My major is radio, television, and film. I have minors in Spanish and social science, certificates in Spanish language and media, and professional Spanish. Now, if I just baffled you with that, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking when I made my degree plan. But regardless, I'm here to talk about my experience with CASE and everything that I've done since then. I have to move around, I'm sorry. My experience with CASE began at Chavez High School. My sophomore year, well before that, let's rewind. In 2007, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 13. It was really tough for me. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, how to take care of myself. And once I got to high school, I found after-school programs with tennis and running that were all sponsored by CASE. And they helped me get back and find my health in a good way. They helped me a lot. And from then on, I was very thankful for CASE because I started becoming more active, and I found a voice in high school because of it. When I was in sophomore year, we had about 4 or 5 students in the CASE program, and by the end of my high school career, we had about 12. So I was very involved in this activity. It helped me a lot to grow. A lot of kids in high school, this is the time where they try to figure out who they are, what they want to do, what they want to become in life. And through CASE, that was the key for me to do this. I was able to go to Washington, D.C. twice through CASE and advocate for after-school programs. And I'm telling the same story that I told them, all the Congress members, about how this program impacted me. And it was a great thing because kids at that age don't expect to go meet with congressional leaders. They don't feel that congressional leaders acknowledge them, know who they are. And for us, the students that went from my school and other schools around Houston, it was a great experience because we got to understand that we do have a voice. These programs are helping, and that's their goal, and they are becoming effective. And because of my work with CASE throughout high school, I was named 2011 top after school leader in the state. And I want to thank CASE, Lisa Carruthers, Trina, Mary Doyle Glover, because they were the ones who nominated me for that. And from then on, I began to see that this program gave a lot to me. And so in my mind, I said, I want to reciprocate that. I want to make sure that what the program has given me, I can give back to it. And when I moved to University of North Texas, it was a tough decision. Originally, I was going to go to the University of Houston. Sorry, guys. But no, because my decision to go to University of North Texas was because all the activities I was involved in high school, with CASE and honor societies and my grades, University of Texas offered me a 4-year tuition and fee scholarship. So I based my decision on that because I said, these opportunities don't come often. Everyone is trying to fight for them, and I was honored and chosen to be one of those people to get that opportunity. So I couldn't pass it up. I went to University of North Texas with the goal of majoring in radio, TV, and film, like I mentioned. And since then, I've added on all those wonderful, fantastic minors and certificates. But last year, I finally found stability in school, and I said, it's time to look for a job. And what better job than to be part of after-school programs? It's been a great experience that I've had as a student, so now I want to give that same experience to students myself. I was hired at Hedrick Elementary through Community Schools in North Texas as an academics enrichment specialist. And since then, throughout this whole year, it's been very, very eye-opening. One, students need these programs. We can't stress that enough. They need these programs. So throughout this whole year that I've been there, I've seen how the students want to grow. They need someone. The school I work with, the students come from backgrounds various, just like mine. Some kids only have one parent, some kids have parents in the military, some kids don't have parents. They live with their grandmother, uncle, aunt, whoever takes care of them. And so they all need help. They're all looking for guidance. They're all looking to be molded and grow as people. And these stories that I see and I help with these students are very, very impactful to me because I realize I was once one of those kids. Fortunately, I was blessed with two parents who are here, by the way. We can give them a round of applause. Fortunately, I was blessed with two parents who have always supported me in what I do and what I want to become. But not all these students have that support. And so it is up to us to give them that support, to show them that you can become a leader. You can go to school. You can graduate college. You can do and be what you want to be. It's not what the statistics, what your teachers, what your family expects of you. It's what you want to be because it is your life. And so throughout this year, I help all these kids and I see them, and it's just crazy how the students want to do this. This past couple weeks, on September 11th, we had them do an activity for September 11th, and we said to write a letter to someone who you admire or has made an impact on you. And one of the students, they practically made me cry. I will say this. The letter that they wrote, one of them was to me, and it said, "Dear Coach Adrian, I admire you and respect you because you are there for us and help us when there's something bad happening." And that really struck me because I didn't realize something bad was happening to them, or I didn't figure that that's the environment they're in. But I'm there for them. They know that they can count on me. And that's what our job is, to be someone that they can lean on, to be someone that they can grow with. And these programs are doing what they want to do. They're serving the community and the students. They're reaching their goals. So it is up to us to do that. That's why it's important that all of us here become involved, advocate, and make sure that every minute that we spend with these kids is being used to its max. I want you guys to stay silent for about 15 seconds. That seems like a pretty long time, doesn't it? Imagine every minute. These programs are not running for a few minutes, they're running for hours. So that's why we have to maximize the resources that are given to us and make sure that they're working. Like I said, there's no reason why these students should feel that way. We must ensure that they all go on and succeed in life. Because in 5 years from now, there's probably going to be another student sharing the same story that I'm sharing, or becoming someone that they want to be. And they'll be up here on this podium talking and sharing to you all. And that's why we need to make sure that we help them grow and make sure that this happens. I'm very thankful for Case, for everything they've done for me. It's always a pleasure coming back and speaking at these events, sharing my story with people, because I come from a neighborhood that is very, very low income. A lot of kids are not expected to graduate high school. Some aren't even expected to pass middle school. Kids are getting arrested in middle school. I remember the first time I went to visit the middle school I was assigned to go to, there was a 6th grader becoming arrested. He was getting arrested. And that struck me. I was like, well, this is the environment I'm going to be in. Fortunately, I went to a different school with more opportunities, more after-school programs. And it was because of those programs that I was able to find a path that veered me away from those things. And now, I'm going to school. I was the first in my family to graduate high school in this generation. And that's something I'm very proud of. This past year, because of the work that I keep doing with Case, I was also recognized as upcoming national leader with these programs. And that was thanks to Mary Gold Glover, because she nominated me for that award. So my goal is to keep giving back what these programs have given to me, because they have made me the success that I am today, along with my family and friends and everyone who supports me along the way. But it's because of these programs that I've been able to do so. And that's why, again, I encourage you all, every minute matters. Advocate, make a difference, change someone's life. It doesn't have to be the students, it can also be the teachers who are working with these students. Sometimes they need guidance too. You know, they get overwhelmed with all the students that they have, and it's like, what do I do with all these kids? We just have to spend one day at a time, every minute, making sure that everything matters. So I thank you all for listening to me today, and I hope that what I've shared to you does stay in your mind and make sure that these kids are getting what they deserve.
I can tell you that whatever the state of after school is in the Houston-Harris County area, it is better today because of you and your efforts, and I thank you for that. Because I do believe that, you know, God didn't make any bad boys or bad girls. It is all learned behavior. So just like that they learn things that are mischievous and we prefer they not do, I think we can also teach them and they can learn to get on the right track. But you all have been, many of you have been doing this a long time. I've been involved in a particular emphasis on after-school activities. And this is kind of cognitive dissonance to some people because they see me as police and it's in my blood. And yes, I did 24 years with the police department, police chief for 7 years, but I don't talk about locking them all up and throw away the key and kill them all and God sort them out. You know, I don't give that spiel. I think we spend too much money on the enforcement interdiction side of the equation. We should move some of that money over on keeping these kids on the right track. What can we do from K, you know, through 4th grade, 12th grade, then we jump into after school stuff. We really have to look at that child developmental stage. What are they learning, what are they not learning? Who has opportunities and who are not afforded opportunities? We don't know that, but one thing we do know is that we have completed our return on investment study. That's been complete. You've seen that, you've read that, you know that. We don't have to say we think, we feel, all that kind of stuff. We know that it's worth it. What you do as practitioners and supporters, it has made a difference and will continue to make a difference. It is unknown how many thousands of young people that you touch now. It's just simply unknown. But I do know this, if I were to walk, let's see, the Harris County Jail is back this way, there's some disoriented, it's back that way. There are about 10,000 people locked up right down in Harris County Jail right now. About half of them are illiterate. About half. I don't blame them. I said it's learned behavior, right? What you don't know, you simply don't know. Many of them, they simply were not afforded an opportunity to get on the right track. They simply didn't know. But thanks to the work that has been done, we know that those children who have an opportunity to participate in some structured type organized activities, particularly after school activities, they tend to engage the juvenile justice system less frequently, if at all, than those who do not have access to those programs. Now, wait a minute. What about this best practice thing? You know, that's the new term for today, you know, best practices. If you're doing it, what's the best practice across America? Well, we got to answer that question too. We don't know yet, but that study is underway. That's in progress. We'll be able to answer that question in the near future. What does best practices look like? And I do know this, that I'm not an educator. I'm just a turnip green farmer from North Louisiana. That's it. But I do believe that there's no need to structure a program in this neighborhood that's identical to this program over here. Because the resources are different, the desires are different, the expectations are different, and the children are very, very different. But we want something that will meet the needs of children, and they are very, very different from household to household, neighborhood to neighborhood, and etc. But they're all sharp, smart, and competent as they have always been, and they do what they see us do as adults or what they fail to see us do as adults. So let's keep pushing on and work hard. You know, I want to commend many of you too, because you started off in January of this year. You had about 5 months or so of this call to action tour. And I know many of you participated in that. And some of you, when Dr. Carruthers first started that, and I don't see Michelle, she's someplace right there, thank you. When he first started this, what is this call to action tour stuff about? Well, some of you participated, many of you did. Actually, you were talking to people who were in a position to support after school, whether it's policy support, whether it's resource support, or just give a speech support. That's what you were doing, and I can tell you, you were successful. How successful were you? Well, there were 13 Houston City Council members that actually got approached. In addition to many of you coming to public session, talking to the mayor, talking to council, making public statements about the need for after-school programs in the area. I can tell you as a result of those 13 city council members having had one-on-one interactions with those of you who participated in the Call for Action tour, I was able to advance a budget amendment at city council that had failed every year before. Now the amendment that failed, not Bradford, see, because I know this, you haven't failed until you stop trying, right? And I was not about to stop trying. But this time around, the budget amendment passed, and if I'm not mistaken, there are 17 votes around the council table, including the mayor, and I think 14 people were wired and sharp and futuristic and stepped up and showed they really do care about kids. It isn't just rhetoric. Because they voted to put more than $1.5 million into kids programs in a partnership with Case for Kids, okay? Now, that's a big plus. I mean, that's not shoeshine money, okay? $550,000, that's not shoeshine money where I come from. Is it enough to get us where we need to go? It is not. But it is a start. It is a start. It is a start. Because City Council wasn't even thinking about putting money into after-school programs. I've been told for several years, you know, that's a school district problem, Bradford. Why don't you go join the school board and talk to Dr. Greer and those folk over there? Yeah, but Dr. Greer's not the one locking up all these children. We are. HCDE, you know, we're doing it because they're becoming involved in activities that are just simply the type things that children do. Or because mom didn't know, dad didn't know, and the child didn't know. There's not an opportunity to learn. You know, we push STEM. You know, that's another thing of today, right? We push STEM, we talk about STEM. You gotta do STEM, but you have STEM. That's great. But you know what? I believe that STEM will enhance those individuals who understand how to communicate well, write well, and problem solve. See, that's what you need to negotiate our society successfully. You have to be able to communicate, write, and problem solve. Now, the STEM is an enhancement, I think, to people who have those skill sets already. STEM will probably be well recognizable among the future leaders of tomorrow. But you know what? The leaders won't represent the majority of the population. So STEM is good. But what we do in our after-school settings, I think, enhances that total development. I'm pro-STEM, by the way. I don't want STEM folks to come after me. I think STEM is good, but I think I want the children also to have interpersonal skills, okay? See, nothing is going to replace this eye-to-eye contact, point, counterpoint. The highest level of knowledge is what? Reasoning. These things, you know, they work off of algorithms that are programmed by human beings. They can't reason. They can't do that. They can't solve problems if they're not programmed correctly even. So that human element has to be there. That's where you come in. You deal with the real human being at a very critical point in their life when perhaps no one else cares enough or are able to. There are people working 2 or 3 jobs, and they just don't have the time to keep the bills paid and give that child the attention that's needed. That's where you and your programs are coming in. So we have to really understand that for the city of Houston to commit $550,000, and how is that broken down? It breaks down to $50,000 in each district council office. I'm not a district council person, I'm at large. My office didn't get any of the money. So you should really get to know who your district council person is, because the monies will be allocated to the district council office and coordinated through Dr. Lisa CARUTHERS and a case for you to utilize. Now, you can take $2,000 here, $5,000 here, and do a lot of good in some of these neighborhoods with some of the programs. You really can. So I would encourage you to, afterschoolzone.org. If you don't get it all here today, I'm sure you've heard it before, it's in your material, afterschoolzone.org, to follow what's going on. Currently, we're in the process of finalizing the interlocal agreement with the city of Houston and CASE for kids, and we anticipate mid-October to ask for your proposals, and maybe early November start reviewing proposals from you. I won't be. Lisa and group will be reviewing your proposals, and we're hopeful that in December we can actually give you resources to enhance your programs or start additional programs that you are involved in. I really wanted this to start in September, but you know, it is public work, right? And you know, that's supposed to be a joke. Thank you, I appreciate it. I mean, you can laugh now. I stop at the front door, have my officers out there, you know, we can check when you leave. So, but look, on a serious note, thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. Because at the end of the day, Texas and Houston and America will only be what we are doing today or failing to do today to harness and develop skills for tomorrow. And sometimes it's scary when I look at what the children are not being exposed to and knowing that they are going to hold leadership positions for tomorrow. So it's our obligation to help prepare them. I don't like it when I hear that somebody is conducting a national research for somebody to do something here in Houston. I don't like that. Because I think the talent is here in Houston. Yes, I think it's here. Now, I'm not opposed to national research because I'm an implant myself. I'm a turnip green farmer from North Louisiana who came over here. So I'm not saying keep other people out, but I think in today's environment, we should really Houston first. When I say Houston, I mean the region. The skills are here. We don't have to go up to Massachusetts or some other place to bring in companies and firms and individuals to do things here. I think that we can and should do it here. But we have to do more of what you all do to help develop that talent, particularly as we go forward. If not, we're going to have to go to a continent, perhaps, to bring in the skills that we need. And what you're doing is very, very important. So I want to say to all of the individuals that are involved in the Harris County Department of Education case, strategy case for kids, thank all of you, because we've been at this now for a long period of time, and it's good when you see kids grow. And they grow real fast nowadays, they do. And I've been doing this about 10 years now. So now there are little boys and girls who were, 9 and 10 years of age. They call themselves grown now, okay? But some of them can relate to you how beneficial some of that after-school stuff that they were involved in. I just finished a meeting with the Children's Museum director, and they have a nice fun place for children to go in a very productive learning environment. And they're pushing those programs across our entire state of Houston. So my time is up. Lisa assured me when my time is up, and she will look at me a certain way, and I'm getting that look. You notice I've been looking this way versus over there. So I just looked that way, and I just saw the look, Lisa. So I didn't see it. That's my excuse. But thank you on behalf of our mayor and Houston City Council and all of those who are more important than I, and people who hold titles and positions. It's you. Again, those program practitioners and supporters, you are making a difference. Keep your head up, stay strong, and move forward, because the children in the Houston-Harris County area, they depend on what you do or what you fail to do. Thank you very much. God bless.
Sir, I enjoyed your speech very well. I was sitting over there 50 feet high because everything you were saying, I concurred. And I was like, man, I kind of want to do as the kids say, turn up and do it for some of those things you were saying. because it's a lot of what I certainly want to speak about as well. So that's one reason why I just thoroughly enjoy your speech. And for the second reason, you're the former police chief. So I absolutely enjoy anything that the former police chief does. You always enjoy what the former police chief does. That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right, good. My name is FARRELL. To give a little bit of background information, just so you kind of know me a little bit more personally, and then we'll have an intimate session over here afterwards. And again, you have the bio, but some things that it doesn't say. I'm native from nearby here. I'm from Beaumont, Texas. Now, that's good to hear a little couple of fools there, but I was just born in Beaumont, Texas. I was raised even lower than that in Silsbee, Texas. So, has anybody ever heard of Silsbee at all? Okay, there's a few hands. I've been in 36 states, and oftentimes try to get people to know where Silsbee is, and usually I'll say, well, I was born in Beaumont. Have you heard of Beaumont? People will say, no. So then I'll say, well, have you heard of Houston? And then hands will go up, if I'm in Atlanta or Philly or somewhere like that. Hands will go up, oh yeah, we heard of Houston. And I say, well, I was raised about 200 miles from there, so it's a very small town, only about 6,000 people are there or so. But we have a lot of fame that has come out of that small place. If anybody ever watches wrestling, there's a guy by the name of Mark Henry. And Mark Henry is a former Olympian. He's also a WWE wrestler, and he once had the championship for a small amount of time. He defeated John Cena. That had me walking around peacock proud. I was like, somebody from Silsbee whooped John Cena. You heard me? Other than that, there's no fame from Silsbee except we have more used car lots than anybody else has in the area. But I was transplanted from there for a long time. For about 15 years in my education career, I served in Omaha, Nebraska, with an organization called Father Flanagan's Girls and Boys Home. It used to be just aptly known as Boys Town. And I'll mention their part in the historical development of after-school programs, because there is a link between that program and what has occurred over the years with us. And it was quite a blessing to be able to serve there. I was there as a teacher. I was there as a coach of 4 different sports. In fact, they even had me coaching soccer, if you can believe it. And I'm straight out of the woods in Silsbee, and they asked me to coach soccer. And I said, man, I've never kicked anything but a pine cone, but I learned how to coach soccer if I need to, and I did. And so I certainly enjoyed my years there. I also served in Omaha Public Schools in the Office of Psychological Services for a while. And then I was transplanted back here into the Houston area, and it was really strange how I got back here. People oftentimes said, well, man, what got you back here to the Houston area? Well, my wife and I, Yolanda, she works at MD Anderson. We share 5 children together. And one day my father-in-law and mother-in-law approached us, and they said, hey, Pops and I are going to leave Omaha. We're going to move to a place called Old Katy. Pops is taking a job with Swift Trucking, so we're going to anchor down in Houston area in Katy. And so I went to my employers at that moment, and I said, listen, I'm leaving. And they said, what do you mean, bro? You just up and leaving us like this, man? You've been with us for so long. And I said, hey, listen, man, my mother-in-law just told me she's going to Houston. I have 5 kids. Wherever your mother-in-law go, that's where you go. So I gave him the news, and I came right back to Houston. My mother-in-law. And it was a blessing to come back here, because I also was afforded an opportunity to work for a wonderful organization here that's been around for more than 120 plus years, serving children with a high level of excellence, and that would be HCDE. I was an employee here for a couple of years within the organization as well in special programs, and that afforded me the opportunity to move about Houston and all 4 areas of programming that we offered, and they still offer those today. I worked with the High Point programs, worked also over in A-Leaf. We had a project there that was called Zenith, and also with some of the ABC units here in Houston. And as I moved about Houston, I was very busy with HCDE doing a number of things. And I have sons and daughters, and my daughters are older, of course, and they're very, very cute. And I thought, well, I'm out trying to save America's kids and Houston's kids, but my daughters are cute, man, and they got some lurking kids walking around here looking at my cute daughters. I better start getting to the house around about 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock too. So I got out to work with HCDE, and I got into full consultation on my own. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it. As I mentioned, man, I've been around the nation. I've been in 36 states. I have aspirations of going overseas here soon. I also have the opportunity to work with other organizations. I'm working with a group called World Vision. That's a Christian humanitarian group. We serve the oppressed, the impoverished all over the world, and of course here in the United States, so I get the opportunity to do that. And not only that, I always like to throw this in, man. I'm getting older, right at 50 years old, and I said, man, I gotta keep moving, you know, as Michelle Obama said, keep it moving, man. So I also took me a nighttime job. I'm a very busy guy. So if you ever come up on I-10 and Friday and see me in Walmart in the dairy section, I take care of eggs, milks, and unload the truck. So you'll see me just about anywhere in Houston doing something. But with that being said, that's a little bit about me, but of course this is not about me. Number one, it's about you. I realize that I'm having a great opportunity to speak to a very elite group of individuals. And you know, as an educator, I know that there are just layers and layers and layers of people who are very important in the success of children. But there are a few that I really count as very special in there. I have a daughter who is autistic, so I always give accolades to my special educators. You know, I mean, these are individuals I remember when my daughter was born, and we had no way of knowing that she was autistic at her birth. And it didn't take very long before folks started to notice a few things and talk to us as parents. And so, you know, we had her looked at and everything. And of course, she was able to get some early intervention services at a very young age. And right now, out of all the five, she's probably the most well-behaved, well-adjusted, and you could look at all five of them would be able to say, that's the one autistic. The one you think is well-adjusted, that's the one. I'm just telling you, and I count the success of my daughter to the educators that she had, you know, in that particular realm. But also, I also like to lift up my paraprofessionals. I started out in the paraprofessional rank after I graduated from college. And I know how much paraprofessionals mean. They are a vital cog in the wheel of a successful school, whether people realize it or recognize it or not. And so I always count them very high on my list of people that I like to appreciate. And then, of course, you all, people who stand in the gap in before and after school programs. And if you're familiar with that terminology, standing in the gap certainly can mean a number of things. It can mean that you're a middleman, a woman, someone that is maybe standing in for somebody else who has to be absent for whatever reason. You know, as Mr. Bradford told, there are people that are holding down 2 and 3 jobs, and sometimes they'd like to be there with their children at those critical times of the day, and they just cannot be because they have to try to make ends meet. But here you are, and you are doing something that certainly is commendable. But not just standing in the gap doesn't mean that you're a middleman. It also means you're an advocate. I know one of the people came up and spoke, and I used that word advocate. And I think about what is an advocate. And an advocate is somebody who stands in and stands up for another. You know, even when someone's guilty sometimes, an advocate is somebody who will still stand before you and stand with you because we know brothers and sisters are born for days of adversity. And so children are going through troubled times right now, but they've got a number of people who are standing up and staying with them, even as they go through some of the difficulties that they go through. And then, of course, standing in the gap is a religious term. That means that if you got somebody standing in the gap for you, you got somebody that's getting on their knees in private, probably laboring in prayer on your behalf, maybe because you don't know how to for yourself. You know, like grandmothers used to do, you know, that kind of thing, and mamas do 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, wearing out little knee spots on the ground for somebody. And that's what you do. You stand in the gap for these children and their families. And so I hold you up in a very high regard, not to flatter you, but I'm telling you sincerely from the bottom of my heart, your job is very, very valuable. And what I want to do here today is I want to hit 3 quick things, and then we're going to get over into our small groups over there. But I want to dig up the wells of our forefathers. So I want to share with you some of the pioneering days, of course, of after-school care. And then not only that, I'm going to share a few philosophical tenets with you. I think that's always important that everybody's like-minded and on the same page in terms of what we should be thinking and how we should be thinking in terms of effective programming. And then, of course, I'm going to hit a few practical components because I'm a practical guy. I'm a guy that as a consultant, I go into schools and I do lots of data collection and I pay attention to uniform school practice to make sure that everybody's consistent and on the same page. In fact, if you were to ask me, is there one thing that you would say that could make any program more effective on any level, whether that's in education, in a church, in a family, in a business, I'll tell you what, when the rubber hits the road, it's going to boil down to is everybody being consistent. Because if everybody's being consistent and doing what they're supposed to be doing day in and day out, every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every month of every year, results happen. I've been around a long time enough to know that one. So let's go ahead and jump into this real quick. I got a remote control in my hand. I mentioned to you, I'm going to tell you again, I got 5 kids. I don't even know how to use it. We can't even find these. But I'll try and see if we can move it along. All right. Fantastic. So jumping into a little history here, you're probably aware of some of this. But if you start to track the history of where you came from and how you got to be here in this room today, if you go back and look, way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, children were at risk, just as they are now, right? But they were at risk for different reasons back then. Back then, as a child, it was very rough on children. During that time period in America, there were many children who were considered to be wayward children. These were children who didn't have families, didn't have parents many times. A wayward child was literally at risk for anybody to do anything to them and handle them any kind of way they wanted to. And I mentioned about Boys Town, if you just look at their history, they started, wouldn't you know, in the year 1917 by a Catholic priest by the name of Father Edward J. Flanagan. And I was so excited when you gave your quote there, Mr. Bradford said, you know what, there's not any bad children, right? The actual quote came from Father Edward J. Flanagan. He once said there's no such thing as a bad boy or girl, just bad environments, bad upbringing, that type of thing. But way back in 1917, even Father Flanagan had the profound idea to construct a village of homes for children so that they could have family units, that type of thing. Now, of course, people call them orphanages, and that goes even further back than that. But even back then, in those early years, children were wayward, and so they would be taken by people and forced to labor and to work, and just whatever, needed to be done, they could just grab a child and throw them on the case as well. And that happens even in other nations right now. If you go to places like Tanzania, South Africa, places like that, children are very much at risk. Very early ages, 8, 9, 10 years old, they're in a forced labor, right? Because many of those places, there are places there that are not as progressed as we are. So we come from this type of a heritage where children were treated very wrongly. And I'll tell you the term that was used back then as we started to formulate ideas and philosophies on what would be best treatment for children. They used to call them, wouldn't you know it, boys' clubs. If you look at the history, you'll find that that's just what they called them, boys' clubs. They started to try to construct environments where children could have a healthy place to be and not put in forced labor situations and that type of thing. That's where we come from. That's our origin. And I like to know where I come from. There's something to be said about knowing where we come from. We also saw historically women moving into the workforce many times in some of our war eras. A lot of times when men were off fighting, what did that mean for the women back at home? They had to leave out of the home and try to hold down finances, much like we're doing today. Well, that left a gap, didn't it? There were children who were wayward, who were running the streets, who were doing whatever, that type of thing. And then, of course, urban sprawl. Urban sprawl helped bring us forward also historically. And I'll just give you a good example. Anytime urban development continues to sprawl, what happens is you have an exponential growth in risk factors. Now, a good example would be the Katy Cypress area. Katy Cypress is growing immensely. Now, as these areas grow, risk factors are going to continue to grow in those areas. There are things that people who've been residents there who said, I lived here 20, 25, 30 years ago, and I would have never seen this or that or the other, not in this neighborhood, not in this community. In fact, I can remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, one of the first times an individual that was living right off of Mason Road mentioned to me where there were some individuals who were up under a bridge on Mason Road and I-10. Right? They had no shirts on, and they were under there, and they were asking for money. And there were people that had lived there for years, man. Come out on the other side of I-10 over there. They used to call it Nottingham Country area. See, that's an area where people were retired, and it was a predominantly white area. They had never seen anything like that. That makes sense to you, but with urban sprawl, more and more risk factors come into the play. When there are more and more risk factors, children become prey at critical times of the day. Okay, so as urban development continues to sprawl, risk factors continue to grow, there's a need for what we do. That's why we are here, where we're here today. And of course, the necessity for supervision, you know, has always been an issue for anybody that has to serve children. I can tell you right away, children will behave much better and perform much better simply by having good supervision. I'm suggesting supervision and monitoring can improve behavior and academic performance through the roof, simply by people paying attention. That's why if you take the word and you just draw a line right between the two connecting words there, what do you see? Supervision. That means to pay attention on a super level. Be like Superman, the woman, when you're paying attention to children. You see what I'm saying? You gotta have supervision. You just can't have vision, but you gotta have supervision, because children who are under supervision will act better. They will perform better academically because I'm paying attention to what they're doing. Does that make sense to you? All right, good. And then, of course, compulsory education. As we move forward historically with compulsory education laws, it just made good sense that we have to have things in place, particularly in our schools and communities, to serve our children, particularly with enrichment types of things. You know, because in America, we serve any and everybody. You know, I pay attention a lot to where America ranks in terms of other nations in reading and math and science and that type of thing. And we're generally, according to the Organization for Education Development, or Economic Development rather, we're generally about 12 out of 30 nations in math, 12 out of 30 in science, and we fare a little bit better many times in literacy. But myself, when I look at it and I say, well, you know, yeah, Singapore is rocking and rolling, man. Ooh, defending way up there, man, in the top 5 or 10 all the time. I'm kind of like Bill Maher on HBO show sometimes. Bill Maher like to say, yeah, but if they're doing so well, why don't you go get one of them Finnish teachers and drop them off on the south side of LA, man, and give one of those classrooms, and let the kids should perform better on the standardized test after a year with them, if they still there. They've been and ran a Finnish teacher up out there. But in America, all of us, whether it's teachers or whether it's before and after school people, we serve any and everybody, don't we? We serve the wealthy, we serve the poor, we serve the black, we serve the white, we serve everybody. Right? We serve everybody. And with compulsory education, it just makes good sense that we have after-school care in place as enrichment, as supplement to the regular education day. So you guys are in a very, very unique position, man. You come from a very rich heritage and history. You're here now today, and I can tell you, if you continue to do the jobs that you're doing and doing them at a high level, we should be in pretty good hands. Because it's one thing I've learned over the years, man, that when you impact a child in some sort of level of programming, whether it's before, after school, or sports, or whatever, there's always some children who are so impacted by what they learn from you and what they experience from you, that for some reason they actually want to emulate what you've done. Right? It's like a little child that grows up and says, I want to be a teacher. Why do you want to be a teacher? Because they had a positive experience with who? A teacher. So don't be surprised if there are people who want to serve in education capacity down the line in the future because of what, of course, they've experienced with you. And so that's a very, very good thing here. And as we continue to go forward, you know, why did after-school care get put on our plate, so to speak, on the American plate? Not just from some of those other things that I mentioned to you, but we can go back to the advent of OJJDP, or the Office of Juvenile Justice. It was formed by legislation in what, 1974, I believe, right? So when that was formed, it had to be put on our plate, right? It had to be put on our plate. And we looked at studies at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, juvenile crime, when does it occur, that type of thing. That goes all the way back to studies that were conducted on when these things occur. You know, and of course, again, going back to adult supervision, we know, again, that if children are supervised at critical junctures, and I say supervision, rates of aggression certainly tends to decrease, and there is less exposure to riskier things that they do not need to be exposed to. I can tell you this, I had to spend some time with my mom. She's 83 years old. She had taken a fall there in Beaumont, so I had to go home. My other brothers had some other things going on, so I said, hey, I got a little flexibility, I'll go see about mama. So I went down to Silsbee, and I stayed there for almost 2 months, working on the house and doing all this kind of stuff. And I sat there with my mother sometimes during the evening, and I started kind of paying attention to what she's watching. Right? She don't move around too much, so she watches a lot of television. And I was watching television with her one evening, and I thought, look at this. It was right about 3 o'clock. And there she was watching a show on TV, and it was a Jerry Springer type of a show. And I want to tell you what I saw. Blew my mind. And you think if a child were able to get a hold of a remote control and caught that show, what they would have seen. Right? Around about 3 o'clock. I'm thinking, my goodness, man. I can remember the days of 3 o'clock when I was growing up, but mother was right there. Right? And we had less choices, of course. I mean, you almost had to watch Andy Griffith or Happy Days. But we didn't have the exposure to these things that they have that are so deteriorating to their minds. So I'm so thankful that at these critical junctures that, you know what, there's less exposure for them because they're in the hands of people, of course, like yourself. So thank goodness that we have grown and progressed, and we're continuing to grow and progress as well. Now, if you follow this ladder upward here and you see way back from the 83 caucus, and this goes all the way up to 21st Century Community Learning Centers, going up to the year 2005 or so, you can see how far we are advancing. That Clinton administration is key as well right in there. Okay, because when Clinton was in office, I believe in those early 90 years or so, I don't know if you remember, but there was a term that was being tossed around, particularly in law enforcement as well, that we were to expect in America super predators. Right? Because right about that time, you had hip-hop groups like NWA, who were making songs called F the Police. And you had movies coming out like Menace to Society. And if you've ever seen that movie, it starts out with a narrator, and they're narrating about each character, and they show one of the characters, and his name is O-Dog. And on the movie, they say, he's one of the craziest alive. Young, black, and don't give a. And so we were expecting these types of things during that time, you know. And of course, it didn't play out like that, thank goodness. You know, that was all hype. Because everybody does something. I've served ministers and I worked in Wyoming one time. I'll tell you what, I like to say it country style. I was in Wyoming doing some consultation, man, in a school in Wyoming. And they had some ring-tailed hooters in Wyoming. Just as I saw in Compton, California. That makes sense to you? Everybody misbehaves. And everybody has to be guilty. Right? But what was key from this time period was, with all of that hype, the good thing that came out of it was, we need you. And that's a good thing. Not because we have super predators. We need you just because we have children that need you. Just simply put as that. But these things have gotten us, of course, where we are. So in terms of the necessity for what we do, hey, kids need more structure. That plus 4 right there, if you're taking a few notes, that stands for positive reinforcement. I'm going to hit on that here shortly in our session. But you know, positive reinforcement deficits can be, according to James Garbarino, debilitating for a child. You think about that. Reinforcement deficit, how can that be debilitating for a child? To lack positive reinforcement in their lives from well-meaning adults. Garbarino says that can be debilitating to a child to never hear that they're decent at something. And it just makes sense when you think about it. I like to tell audiences all the time, you know how many people have walked out of a marriage after about 15, 20 years because of a reinforcement deficit? Think about that. Hey, if a brother can't learn to say thank you, that cake sure was moist and that meal sure was good. You look around one day after 15 years, be making your own cake and making your own meal. You better learn how to say thank you. I appreciate that. That sure was good. Woo, you know how to do it. I'm just telling you. Unattached with external adults. The Search Institute in Minnesota says it like this, man, that by the time a child reaches the middle school years, they need to have 2 adults that are madly attached to them outside of their home environment by middle school. The Search Institute says that almost sets them up for safe passage to the high school year. Now, if you know, we can go back and we can pick that apart if we want to, but I like to say it like this. Just think of it in practical terms. You're sitting in here today, and I'll bet you money, marbles, and chalk that there was somebody in your life that was influential to you around about middle school, high school years, and it wasn't your mother or your father. And if I were to go around and poll you and ask you one by one, I guarantee you most of you are going to say somebody like a teacher, a coach, oh, Miss So-and-so. So the Search Institute's right. If you get 2 well-meaning adults in their lives, man, that are attached with them outside of the home environment, it almost sets them up for safe passage to the high school years. We're just trying to get them one step at a time. One step at a time. And also, difficulty with discipline. I'm going to hit on that hard here in just a second. But many children with difficulty with discipline. The word discipline means being taught. The children have difficulty with just being teachable. After school programs are nice grounds where they can be trained to understand how to be teachable individuals. That's why those interpersonal skills are so important, above and beyond just the whole idea of STEM and the like. Just learning just how to be a positive interpersonal person that is teachable and coachable will take you a long way in life, far beyond your education. And of course, we have many kids with increased rates of aggressive behavior today, and there are reasons why. I want you to think about the most aggressive game that I had as a child was a little mechanical football game that was made out of tin, and they had little plastic people on it, and they had little hammers on it, right? And you could roll the button, and they would kind of vibrate across the screen, and they'd kind of bump into each other. That was aggression. Well, you had Rock'em Sock'em Robot, and you hit the thing, and they and one of the heads would just go up on the spring, and you just slap it back down, and start back punching. That was aggression. You look at some of these video games they spend a lot of time playing now. Hey man, they got some there, they got people jumping out of cars, raping people, whooping people with baseball bats, blood splattering all over the screen. And these are games that children are playing. I challenged my son one time when we went into a GameStop. He wanted a new game. I said, okay, well, it's your birthday. Let's go check it out. This was my challenge I issued to him. I said, I'm willing to pay for any game in here, provided that you read the back of it. And it does not require me to have to watch it with you. You understand what I'm saying? If there's no rating on the back of it that doesn't require me to get involved, I'll buy it. So you go have at it and look fine for him. Or he all hunting, man, looking like he's looking for you. You can't find one, can't you? You know what? There are some, but those aren't the ones that are considered to be fun. Fun ones are to kill them, stab them, rape them, beat them. And that's when our children are being inundated with it, which of course there are studies that suggest exposure even to those games can influence a child to become much more aggressive in nature in terms of verbal, body language, all that kind of stuff. So there's a great need and necessity for us. When we move over to the group over there, I'm going to hit this framework of effective programming, man. Relationships sit front and center on every level of programming, no matter what you're doing with people. If you're working with people, relationships has to be a key component of that, right? James Comer used to be at Yale. James Comer says it like this, man. Nothing significant nor miraculous occurs between an adult and a child in the absence of a relationship. It's not going to happen. It is the doorway for miracles to happen. And we're going to work our way around these, man. We're going to talk about some preventive practices. We've got to put a lot of stock in being proactive. This is where we get efficiency from. This is how we manage our day, that kind of thing. We touched on recognition. I want to tell you, we're going to hit on correction here in a second as part of a critical component of effective after-school programming. In fact, I'd like to circle that one, put a star by it, highlight it in pink and yellow, whatever you have, because that's the hallmark of love for a child. I don't care where you have them, before school, after school, or during school. That is the seal of authenticity that you love them, is you will correct them consistently every time they're wrong. That's my way of telling the child, I love you, because I'm willing to correct you. I'm willing to draw a line in the sand and let you know this is what's expected, this is what's not, and when you step across the line, I'll help you get back on the other side. And I'll do that very professionally. But I'll help, because I love you. And then, of course, crisis management. We're going to hit on that a little bit as well here in just a bit, because, guys, I can tell you what, when we're working with kids, I like to say it like this. Anything can happen at any moment. And you have to be like UPS. You got to show them that you can handle it. Because there's a great reward for you if you show that you can handle a child who gets emotionally escalated, and you can deal with the situation and idle them back down in a short amount of time and keep the program moving. You get a lot of respect from a lot of other kids. Because let me tell you about the subculture of children. When you got a subculture of children, every one of them know who's the bull in the ring. And when I show I can handle the bull in the ring, I'm not going to have no problem with nobody else. That makes sense to you? All right. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Relationship building tenets here, man. Working all the way down, doing activity with you in a second. But that big one down at the bottom, that's us, our interpersonals. Okay? Our interpersonal behavior makes the difference in relationship building. Like I'm on stage right now, y'all all looking at me. Every day in your program, you're on stage and they're looking at you. And they're watching how you act, how you talk, how you move. That's going to determine the relationship that I get. You got this in your packet right here. I just want to say this to you. I'm going to give you a quote by a very famous person in education. All of us should know who she is. Her name is Madeline Hunter. Madeline Hunter, going way back. Some young people looking at me like, what are you talking about? Madeline Hunter. Madeline Hunter once said this: time is the coin of efficiency for the educator. Time is the coin of efficiency for the educator. He or she will live by it or die by it. Whether or not you can manage every minute that you have with the children. So we want to help you with that. All right? Mention to this on reinforcement for you real quick. This is from the Pew Center on statistics. Most well-adjusted children are only going to get reinforcement less than 2% of the time with adults in their lives. That's at home. So if you think about the 3 to 6 period, what is the Pew Center saying? Their shot at meaningful reinforcement is probably going to come with you. Because if it's going to happen at home, it's probably not going to happen. You know why it's not going to happen? For the same thing that Mr. Bradford said. If you got a single mother that's working 2 or 3 jobs and she comes to the house, being warm, comforting, and cordial is not on her list right now. Right now, she wants to know, why didn't you make this or that for your brother or sister? Why are you laying around over here playing on this video game when I asked you to make some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? I'm working 2 or 3 jobs and I can't come in here and you can't do what I asked you to do. So reinforcing the kids is the last thing that we think of. So if they don't get it in the program from you, they're likely, of course, to not get it. All right? This is my man here who's in trouble. I just want to make a statement on this. When you get in trouble in the before and after school program, man, if you're taking notes, we cannot implement punitive practices with children to correct their behavior. Having a punitive philosophy in a before and after. In fact, I know some people that try to use the after school program as a punishment. That's crazy. It's like, come on, man, this is after school program. This is where fun and excitement and learning takes place. This is not about having somebody sit in the corner and write 150, 200 times. I will not do that again. That's archaic. That's obsolete. Just takes my fingernails and just scratch across the blackboard of life when I see that. Marion Elderman Wright, one of my favorite people in the world, Children's Defense Fund. Okay? I remember listening to Ms. Wright speaking. She said this, and I thought, man, you know what? She's right, because I've been in some environments. You know, when you go home visiting and stuff like that. I remember being in Chattanooga, Tennessee, working with some children, and I visited their homes. visited their communities, man, their neighborhoods. I thought, my gosh, they live here. And then somebody up at the school got enough nerve to try to holler at them. Mary, my wife said, man, you can holler all you want to. You're not scared of nobody. Because many of our children, their monsters are real. Okay? All right, so we want to stay away, of course, from that stuff. So listen, I'm at the end of this session because I want to try to move along. I don't know, we might have a few minutes left over here in a small group. Hopefully we do, because I want to hit some more practical things. But as Mr. Bradford said, I know he thanked you profusely for what you do from his post as an education consultant, man, that traveled this nation. Again, it is not flattering. Please receive it. I absolutely thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for what you do, because I know it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of commitment to be in an after-school program or a before-school program, because that's outside of normal hours for most people. When I work with my teachers, I oftentimes try to tell them, hey, listen, Monday through Thursday, your car ought not be beating the bus out of this parking lot. But oftentimes I see that. There's a mad race out of the schoolyard. There go the buses and there go the teachers' cars. But you don't go anywhere. You stay there and you deal with these children until 6 or so. And so I definitely appreciate what you do, okay? All right, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna give that.
Thank you, Adrian, for the call to action. So, Houston, it's our time to step up for after school and out of school time education for our children and youth. Now, I would also like to recognize Jill Sexton with Commissioner Jack Cagle, Office Harris County Precinct 4. What we know is this: more after-school support is needed in the greater Houston, because after-school programs help to close the achievement gaps for struggling learners from pre-K through 12th grade. They keep kids safe while parents work, and after-school programs positively connect kids with their community through high-quality programming delivered by educators, youth service providers, and volunteers. Simply put, after-school programs prepare youth to address Houston needs. Please get engaged, involved, and advocate where you can, because every minute matters. Thank you to all of the elected officials, business professionals, nonprofit organizations, educational leaders, practitioners, and volunteers who have gathered here today to share in this very important event. Your understanding of where we are as an out-of-school time community and where we are going is the key to provide needed engagement. We would like to thank our enriched after-school and conference supporters, Houston Endowment Incorporated, the Houston Galveston Area Council, and Harris County Department of Education. We also would like to give a special thanks to Right Brain Group CEO Meredith Scott Lynn, and Director of Education, Julia Gabo, for hosting the social last night. And finally, a special donation has been provided by the Houston Astros. One lucky individual will have the opportunity to win a suite to an upcoming Astro game. This fabulous prize will be given away at the closing session of today's conference. You must be present to win. Yes, they're not coming here crying, okay? And if you didn't listen because you were texting, that's your fault. On Facebook, you're doing some other stuff. I know I'm boring, but pretend you're having fun. So at this time, I would like to recognize Matt Ritchie with the Houston Astro for their generous contribution. Matt, please stand to be acknowledged. Thank you, and we also have a number of conference exhibitors with us today. Be sure to visit the interactive hall where contests and giveaways will be announced. Exhibitors, please stand as I call your name. After school to achieve? No? Okay, so I'll go pretty quick. American Robotics, Amplify, Artist Bow, Bayou City Fencing Academy, Be a Champion, Building Brains, Champ Invention, champion before and after school programs, Concordia University, Texas, creative learning, developmental studies, education through entertainment and arts partnership, elite music and fine art. For the children, Photo Fest Incorporated, Girls on the Run, Holocaust Museum Houston, Interactive Robotic Academy, Jump Bunch, Capon Early Learning, Lectura Books, LTS Education System, Muses 3, Northside Karate, PCS Adventures, Quest Learning Institute, Recipe for Success, SNS Worldwide, Teacher Heavens Incorporated, Texas Hunger Initiative, the Health Museum, Urban Harvest, Virtuous Store Incorporated, Right Brain World, Young Audiences of Houston, Sully Method, SETAA, Texas A&M AgriLife, Coast to Coast Soccer, Sessions Music, and Youth Genesis Consulting Incorporated. For all of them, a big round of applause, please. So please take a moment and visit their table. Finally, thank you for helping to expand our Enrich and after-school support base. We encourage you to stay informed about the progress and making with Enrich After School and our Call to Action Tour. So expect a call, an email, and even a visit. We need you in this work. Also, please mark on your calendars for October the 23rd for Lights on After School, our national day to celebrate after-school program. Now, for those who are staying with us for the Case Out of the School Time Conference, please join us and our vendors in the exhibit hall. Worship session will begin promptly at 9:45. Please refer to your program book for session descriptions. At the end of the second session, you will have more opportunity to network and visit the exhibit hall, where there will be boxed lunches to serve to all. Everyone will reconvene here in the ballroom at 1 p.m. for plenary session. We are very fortunate to have CO Brad Bradford, Houston City Council at Large Position 4, join us to share the latest development of the new local funding stream for additional out-of-school program. He will be followed by a live recording of a head-to-head segment for the Making After School Cool podcast and our keynote speaker, Farrell Artis. Mr. Artis is the author of Guys, Let's Keep It Real. He will provide a fresh perspective on how to tackle the real issues that plague so many of our youth today. Thank you all again. Have a great day.